The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. Welcome to a LIVECAST.
I love it. Every time I see that one, it's like my favorite we've ever done. I absolutely love
that's
it.
because I didn't actually do it. I had nothing to do with it.
I know. But the other ones were good. The other ones were very
thanks.
good.
Thanks for the...
They were all right, too.
Yeah, those, it's like you go to like a family function and they're like, oh, the potato salad was great. Well, I didn't make that. I made the bean salad. Yeah, that was okay.
That was okay.
Yeah, not bad.
That was good,
yeah.
Todd.
I forgot to light my incense. We were talking off the air with Dean, and I didn't get a chance to light my incense, so I want to do that. Not that it does nothing other than just I like the smell of it.
It smells good for you. I still put like perfume and stuff on like before we do live.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. Just automatically I do it. So put your incense on, and so Dean McMurray with us tonight, and we were just talking to Dean before we came live, and everybody is going to enjoy this episode so much. We've already asked him to come back. That's how amazing he is. So,
okay, cover me for just a second.
I know, I'm just talking. Hello to everybody. Betsy's on with us tonight. Renee's on with us tonight. We have our Facebook user who says, hi, Sandy and Todd. And if you can, just let us know who you are, because we only see Facebook user and we want to know who's on with us tonight. So,
yeah, if you're watching via the Stay Weirdos group, it just says Facebook user. It won't actually show your name. So if you're watching through that, pop your name on.
Is this new too, Todd, where you can see everybody's profile picture when you put a comment up?
No, not new at all.
Okay. Where have I been?
I was just going to say, where you been for the last 6 months? Oh, it's Deej.
I have no idea. Oh, hi, Deej. Hi, we were just talking about you tonight.
Yeah, but I bet her ears were ringing.
Yes, I'm sure they were. How much we love you, Deej. Look, there's our crazy Elfie girl. Ed,
thanks for being on tonight. Giving everybody a chance to tune in tonight on this live cast. This is going to be an interesting one. And a lot of times we have people on who we've had on a couple of occasions. Mm-hmm. And that's good because they're family. You kind of know them really well. We got really lucky. Hi, Joe. Thanks for being on. We got really lucky with this one because and it's an interesting story. I think that once we get into Dean's story, everybody's going to be as interested as we were prior to it. Like I could have just said, screw the live cast. Let's just talk to him for about 2 hours or whatever.
I know, it's true too. Like we actually ran out of time. We're a few seconds late because we were just talking, and he's great. He's great. And I was on his website this afternoon, kind of checking things out, and we'll put all the contact detail, all the website stuff up and everything. You guys need to check out his website. Mm-hmm. It's super cool. Super cool. He's got videos on there and testimonials and stories, and just so cool. And he's got the most amazing story ever. So,
and it's cool that we're kind of tying into the fact that tomorrow is Veterans Day as we're recording this. If you're watching this at another time and not seeing it live, tomorrow is Veterans Day in the United States, and we're going to actually be speaking with a veteran tonight. So
so that's amazing. I love it. I purposely tried to book Dean tonight because I knew we weren't having one tomorrow. So I'm just really glad that he's with us tonight. I like getting different perspectives from different people in the paranormal / woo-woo community. I like hearing their stories. Because we've said before, everybody's journey is different. We have similarities, all of us, but our journey and what got us to the point that we're at is very different than anybody else's. Right. So it's so interesting and so cool to hear other people's journeys and their experiences and perspectives on this whole community that we have.
And I'm not going to lie. I think this is probably one of the, I don't want to say craziest, but different stories I've ever heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a guy that came from the military, and now he's kind of trapped in the woo-woo world with the rest of us because of his gifts and stuff like that. And who would have thought? You know,
I know.
Would have thought.
I know. So I'm really interested in hearing his story, the journey to get just to where he is today, because I think that's so interesting. And you guys were talking a little bit about Afghanistan earlier.
Yep.
And, this is a man who is a military veteran, and he helps people with his gifts. And I think that's so cool. Just so cool.
We've got about 5 more audio casts to go this season.
Mm-hmm.
This will end up being one of them.
Yes, definitely.
And we've already got the rest of the season planned out. So once we've hit 16 audio casts for the season, we're going to take a break for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll come back after the holidays with an all-new Sandy and Toddcast. In fact, we're not even going to be on it. There will be actors playing us.
We've asked Sue and Damon to take our place.
No, Hugh Jackman's going to be playing my part, just so you know. Next Thursday, we also have a...
I kind of like Sue.
Sue should play my part? Is that what you're saying?
Sue should play my part.
That'd be fine with me. Next week, a very interesting one, too, because we're going to be talking about Native American heritage and how it connects with the occult with Jordan Simel Gray Graham. He's going to be joining us. He's got a business in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's just opening this weekend. And so I want to talk to him about his heritage and how the occult and how woo-woo kind of plays into all that too. So that's going to be another interesting one. We're getting outside our box a little bit.
We have a lot of stuff coming up. We're already planning season 4. We're, like you said, we're going to take a couple weeks off in between seasons like we always do. We're going to have a couple bonus episodes out there for everybody. I think I'm going to do another Sandy Cemeteries, that kind of thing, to keep everybody busy. But we're also working on some stuff for after the holidays, and we don't want to give too much information away yet, but we are working on some really cool stuff for the month of January, some surprise stuff if we can work it out. And also big request and hint. If you enjoy what you see and hear from us every single week, whether it's Facebook, whether it's any of the audio platforms that we're on, Spotify, anything at all. If you like us and you like hearing us, please do us a favor. Leave us a message. Leave us a review. Whether
it's on leave a message for Sandy and Todd.
Whether it's on our Facebook page or it's on any of the platforms, please leave us a review, because we're working on something really special for season 4, the beginning of season 4, aka beginning January. And if you leave us a review, you could be in the running for some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be doing. So make sure you leave us a review. Leave us a good review. Maybe I should be specific on that one. Leave us a good review if you like what you hear and see. And we thank you so much for that and for all your support. We're going into season 4, Todd.
Crazy.
Who'd have thunk it?
Not me. I can tell you that right now. I thought it was going to be like a 4-week thing, and then we'd get into a huge fight, and it would end, and there'd be a lawsuit or something, and I would win, and I'd be really, really rich. And
Who says you would win a lawsuit?
And look at the situation. All right. Let's bring him out, because I'm really excited about talking to him. He's known as the military medium. Let's say hi to Dean McMurray. Dean, thanks for being on with us this weekend or this week.
Hey, Sandy, Todd, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on with us.
You bet.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Again, we were just talking about this. It is, there's a holiday tomorrow.
Yes.
And we kind of purposely had you coming on today because we really want to celebrate the fact that you did serve our country, and we cannot thank you enough for that. So thank you so much for your service, first and foremost. And let's just kick off the whole hour. I'd love to know what your journey is. When you were a child, did you know you had these gifts?
No. I was, I know we were talking, Sandy, you were sharing that you're kind of a late bloomer too, right? And, my journey really started about 11 years ago. I'm about as old as you are, Sandy. So, We can go to Denny's Senior Sunday together.
Listen,
wait a minute. Where's mine? Where's mine?
I know. Let's put Todd in this category too.
We'll all go together.
All right.
We'll go together here after the show, and but going back here, I was getting just returned from my last deployment, and here I was in my early 40s, and it was all holy hell started breaking loose. And that's, I call it like in a sense, kind of like a poltergeist type activity. Clocks and pictures started flying off the wall. Mm-hmm. And I know Todd had asked me earlier before we went live, like, hey, were you a big, were you into all this stuff? And I was the atypical guy. I was, was not a believer in this. The craziest conversation I'd have with my wife is what kind of essential oil she should use. Be like, I don't know, it's Christmas. Put that, that pine tree stuff in. It smells good, But and she was always a believer in it. And I wasn't, and she actually, I didn't know this, but she was worried what I would think for, a number of years after we got married. And so she would go off with girlfriends to go to these gallery readings and stuff, and say, we're going shopping, right? In a sense, I guess they were, but they would go get readings. And so they were closet woo-woos, I call them.
I love it.
But when I came, for me, when I came back and all this crazy stuff was happening, I was just like everybody else and trying to put logic to, what defies logic. And so, when I'm looking at, boy, that picture shouldn't have jumped off the wall like that. That nail was right in the studs, all that stuff. And so I'm like, there's some weird stuff going on. And my wife, a little backstory, when I was overseas the last time, my wife confided in me that she had a local psychic come over and basically douse or cleanse the home. My daughter was 5 at the time, and she wasn't sleeping. And so I was like, whatever, I just kind of blew it off. And I started jokingly referring to this lady as the voodoo chick, because all you and your voodoo chick friends, was my language.
Right.
And because I will poke fun at something I don't understand or something that frankly scares the shit out of me. Right. So that's,
right.
I got to make fun of it. And so when I saw that, I was like, get voodoo chick on the phone. There's some weird stuff going on, because who do you call? It's like the old aspect of, who you go to for your car and everything else.
Yep.
But when it comes to the paranormal, if you don't travel in those circles, who do you reach out to? And so literally we did that. And she came over and started connecting to my grandfather on my mom's, or, my mom's dad. And, he was a World War I veteran, and I was not in the mood nor the headspace to be getting a reading, because quite honestly, I was like, what's Grandpa doing here? We weren't close, and but she was like, he's supporting you after your deployment and all this, and I wasn't quite embracing the reading the way that I should have been at the time. And quite honestly, I just wanted her to stop all the craziness.
Right.
I didn't understand how things worked or the parameters of things. And so she left, and nothing quieted down. Actually, it got, actually busier or louder. And until one night, I was washing baby bottles for our then newborn son. And he was our deployment baby. And but I was washing, bottles around midnight, and I just had a creeped out feeling that there was somebody standing behind me. And I was like, kept on turning around, and all the hair was standing on end. And even though I don't have a lot, right? And, and I was like,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Right. Yeah, I know. But, I was like, how do I know that there's somebody here? And I just had that clear cognizance, that clear knowing. I didn't know it then, but it was without a shadow of a doubt that I knew that my grandmother was with me.
Mhm.
And, you know, just in my bones, I knew it. And it was like, so I'm talking to myself. It's like, you know, it's grandma. Grandma's not here to hurt us, you know?
Yeah.
And so quite honestly, I thought, oh my God, I'm tired, you know, whatever. I'm just going to go to bed. And in the back of your mind, I think even if you're not open to it, if you know somebody that you loved is there in spirit, you kind of part of you wants to connect. There's,
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
know, and
Absolutely.
so I started talking to her one way in my head. By this time, I'm laying in bed. I'm very much still awake, but my eyes are closed, laying in bed. And it's like, hey, grandma, how you doing? Miss you, love you, all that great stuff, right? All the questions you'd like to ask, you know, what you been up to. And but I'm not getting anything. It's, you know, sending it out. And then it was like my ego. My ego is my drunk friend that knows all the wrong things to do. And my ego goes, you know what? This is all bullshit. This is all BS, Dean. You're making it up. You probably watched a show that got your, just your subconscious going, whatever, trying to make
Right.
sense of it, right? If she's really here, she would prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And it was immediate that as soon as those thoughts left my head, the room turned absolutely frigid. Now, guys, I live in the Midwest, right? And I think we're getting ready to experience our first snowstorm this season.
Yes, we are. Yep.
This was like in December, January timeframe, and it was frigid out. So I'm like, holy crap. Like, did the wife leave the window open? Is it off peak power? And, you know, quite honestly, I was like, you know, part of me was like, there's got to be something more. And so again, my ego said, you know what? If she is really here, she needs to touch us, because then it's something so visceral, I can't ignore it.
Right.
And she wasn't there to disappoint, because it was, you know, I remember it like yesterday. It was a gentle yet firm pressure that started at the top of my head, went all the way to the bottom of my feet. And it wasn't like she was choking me, like, you will believe,
Right.
it was like she was laying almost on top of me in a sense to push me into the bed, where I became heavier than the bed, and I could hear the springs compress and the bed come up kind of around me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
what seal to hell did I just break? And who did, and it's like,
Yep.
So, I was freaked out at that point. And I was basically saying, it was like the 6-year-old little boy in me came out like, all right, grandma, love you. See you soon. You got to leave. And as soon as I said that, though, it was like nothing ever happened. But I'm sitting up in bed, completely covered in sweat, out of breath. And I'm like, oh my God, is this what after how many years am I having a psychosis moment? I was trying to analyze myself. And my wife, who, as I shared earlier, we had a newborn at the time, and our daughter was still young. She was sleeping like she has never slept, and I just snoring away. And quite honestly, I was like, oh my God. And I was trying to, really hard to wake her up. And she was like, what's going on? I was like, there's somebody here. And she was thinking somebody's breaking in. I'm thinking, no, that would be easy to explain or respond to. That's physical. This, you can't physically see somebody there, and no, I said, there's somebody here. There's a spirit. And she's like, how do you know that? And I go, I know, right? I said, get a hold of Voodoo Chick, get her ass over here. And she goes, and so she's like, Dean, it's like 2:00 in the morning. She's like, you need to go back to bed. And I'm like, you think, so I think I got up and watched TV, the rest of the night or whatever. Right. So that was really if somebody wants to call it their awakening or their, was really the beginning, because it was my come to Jesus moment where for me, I got slapped across the forehead with the proverbial 2x4 and say, hey, dummy, get your stuff together because you got stuff to do, even though you got like, you're like in your last 3 years of military service. You need to get your proverbial crap together because you got people to help. And I didn't know it at the time. And so that really started me on going, on a journey going, what was that? Why me? Why now? And it took me back to the place of origin, which was the common denominator, which was this voodoo chick, I called her.
Right.
And she said, yeah, it's pretty simple. You're a medium. And I said, I don't want to be. I was really,
Hello,
and I was
exactly,
adamant.
right?
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
adamant. I joke about it now, but I said, I don't want it. Like, I really do not. I'm going to go work for the VA. I got a newborn. I got a 5-year-old. I'm in my last 3 years of service. Daddy can't play like boo boo. I can't go up to the
Right.
that's what I was thinking. Oh my God, I'm gonna end up in the funny barn, and
Yep. But do you look back on it now, Dean? And are there things that have happened to you in your life that you can say, okay, this may be why I felt this way or I experienced this? Can you think back and remember anything that may have meant you were a medium back then, but you sort of pushed it down and, subconsciously?
Sure. Well, Todd and I were talking, going back. I don't and even though I wasn't open to this stuff, after I embraced and, going into the journey like about a year or so, and then kind of going back and reflecting, like how back, was there a moment in time that I remember that there was something that happened that was like, that gave me pause at the time, or I just brushed it off and be like, and we were talking about Afghanistan, because there was a couple instances. One was, part of our mission was to occupy mountainous observation points for a week at a time. And we would, put, 60, 70 pounds on our back and basically walk up the side of this mountain. It sounds so lovely now that I talk about it.
I know, right?
But you go up there and you spend a week, and, it sounds like a destination vacation. And you spend a week up on, in this, mountain or ridge line, wherever your observation post was. And one of the things I was sharing with Todd is the one area that we were at, our outpost, I'll call it, or our fire base that I was based out of for the time that I was in Afghanistan, was really it was really a slaughterhouse for the Russians. And that's kind of before they were actually called Taliban. They came in and kind of really slaughtered most of the Russians that were in there. And why I'm sharing this is because we were talking about how when we were on this one particular observation post, it was like I was always hearing whispering or voices. Mm-hmm. And I was always paranoid because it was windy up there and you couldn't quite hear quite well. And I don't like wearing earplugs when things go boom or shooting things back, years ago now. But so my hearing wasn't what it used to be. But you get paranoid, right? If there's somebody that wants to harm you, you want to hear it. And so we would pull up the thermal imaging and all the other techno gadgets, and there would be nothing physically. We had trip flares and all that happy jazz, and there was nothing physically. But, thinking back on it, I'm like, was I picking up on the voices of, whether it was Russian soldiers or the Afghanis that died there? It's got a lot of history in that region of the world. And the other time that I was, Todd and I were talking about was actually in a night patrol that we were doing in up armored vehicles. And the mission was actually to do a route reconnaissance or route patrol during the night in a known hot zone, right? Mm-hmm. And so tensions were already high, but it was kind of routine pretty much at this point. And I was not in the lead. I was kind of more center in the, and so we were doing our, deal. And all of a sudden we stopped. We had been going for, a number of hours or whatever. And all of a sudden we stopped, which is a no. You don't stop unless you absolutely need to for, common sense reasons. Right. And especially if you do need to stop, you don't obviously stop in a choke point or somewhere where, you know, people can, you know, do an ambush on you.
Right.
And we had stopped for like an extended period of time. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. And it was like a voice behind me in the vehicle. Now I got to add, there was only myself, the driver, and then we had a 50 caliber machine gunner that his legs were like right behind my shoulder. And when he says something, you can barely hear him, right? But it was like somebody was behind me, right behind my head, going, move the vehicles up another 500 meters. Very clear. There wasn't a stutter. There wasn't no static. And so I'm trying to get the lead vehicles on the radio. There was no answer. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so, you know, I hear this voice, you know, imploring me again, move your vehicles up another 500 meters. And so I'm trying more on the radio and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So by this time I'm outside the vehicle. I'm sprinting forward. So you remember, you know, our troops, you know, wearing ballistic body armor, full basic load of ammunition. So you're carrying and to sprint is now I'd probably die. I'm so out of shape compared to when be like crawling. But I got up to the front and here these guys, you know, they decided, hey, let's take a bathroom break. You know, it's like, what are you guys losing your mind? And that's why. And here's one guy smoking. And I said, have you guys lost your mind? Like I knew that they knew better. And for whatever, I forget what the excuse was at the time. And when we were chatting, the fellow squad leader and myself heard a audible clicking. And so to paint a little picture, so it's kind of like high terrain to one side of us. And then the other side kind of goes off the road. And then it's kind of not quite a sheer cliff, but it kind of goes down quite a ways. And we could hear an audible clicking. And we still believe to this day that it was a trying to remote detonate an ID. Now, one of the things that we were carrying with us that was very, very in development still was these IED jamming devices. The contractors would always show up, and this was back 2003, so we're going back a number of years. It was very, very new technology, and they were like, they just bolted literally a can, you know, and they said, just flip this switch and just see what it does. And we're like, okay. And it created a bubble of electronic protection, basically. And, you know, we still believe to this day that saved our ass, number one. But I go back and saying, okay, I can understand the technology. I can wrap my mind around that. But where did that voice come from?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I go back to. And I know, Todd, you asked me, like, you know, did you ever definitively figure out what that voice was or where that voice come from? And I can't. I don't. And, you know, and like the thing that I share with Todd is I don't know at this point in my life if I really need to know, because if it was something divine in nature that was there to help us.
Yeah.
So whether it was my guardian angel, whether it was my spirit guide, whether it was my intuition, you know, it was there to help. It wasn't there to, you know, be a threat or be malevolent or anything like that. So it's just like, okay, thanks, buddy. You know, thanks for having our back and being there. Like, hey, you know, move these vehicles up. You got to get them up. Let's go. You know, there's something not good. And that's why I'm still a big proponent of people listening to their intuition. Doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah.
So whether you're a policeman, you know, military, whatever, or you could be a utility, you know, worker, whatever, you know, you can really accentuate and keep yourself safe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dean, how do you go from being the military guy, finally getting a slap, as you said, with the 2x4 from grandma that, hey, there's something going on here. What's that transition to kind of where you're at now? How do you transition from being Dean, the military guy, to being Dean, the military medium? What's that like?
Yeah. Well, if I could give you an analogy, it's like going to the drugstore buying 2 boxes of X-Lax, slamming both of them with a Red Bull. I know that's pretty gross, but in a sense, it's like everything seemed like in that 3-year period, as I was talking about, it wasn't that in a sense, that's what I kind of joked. I was like, God, it was like we really just chugged down this spiritual X-Lax as everything was happening and it seems like it's crazy. Like, it's like out here it's normal, and in your life it's just bonkers because things are going a million miles an hour. And it was crazy because in the beginning it was so turbulent, and here I was trying to live 2 lives. I was I was trying to show up every day as the soldier and keep the spiritual aspect out of it. And I supervised at that time before I retired. I was supervising like 4 people, 3 in my office, and then there was a remote office that I supervised. And so the folks in my office, of course, you start BSing around having coffee or the water cooler. And it was kind of funny, some of the conversations, like one guy be like, dude, I'm going to pray for you. And somebody else like, dude, that's so cool. And so, the conversations were so varied and talking about the things that are happening. And, but yeah, it was just like really kind of trying to, I guess, to borrow an analogy of passing through the eye of a needle, going a million miles an hour, it felt like, and also transitioning through the military, but kind of trying to pull the gear every day of saying, okay, I'm Dean the medium by night, but Dean the soldier by day, right? It sounds like a new Marvel comic.
I was just going to say,
I know.
Man, right?
And by the way,
Superhero.
if you're listening, Marvel, so
Dean
but
McMurray. Yes.
But truly, and it wasn't until I really got within that last year that I kind of become the grumpy old guy. And that's what I called it, because I was like, what are they going to do? Bend my dog tags, make me retire? And because I was tired of living a lie. And I was ready to come out of what I call the proverbial metaphysical closet. I had embraced who I was as a medium, but I couldn't fully live that because I felt that if I did, I would be that guy, right?
Yes.
And I would be shunned by a lot of superiors that I earned their trust and respect, a lot of officers and folks, and I didn't want to, lose their respect. And, and I think we're all looking for that. I think we're all looking for validation. And I think we're looking to be seen at a deeper level. And when I was transitioning, we'll call it, it was like, I was, coming out of the shell, so to speak. And my family, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. She was from day number 1, my biggest supporter, and always has been. And it's been really interesting. And my mom, my dad, my family, has been I was kind of worried a little bit when I came out, and my mom goes, that makes total sense. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but mom doesn't say anything when you're 16. When you're 16, mom doesn't go, hey, this might happen to you when you get older, because, whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
But you know what? I think that once, like a lot of us, I think that there is this stigma in the world about people who have these gifts. And one of the reasons Todd and I began this whole thing was because we wanted to sort of help build a community where the stigma wasn't there, where everybody could speak freely and explain their thoughts and feelings and ideas and experiences. And I was the same way. I was very afraid when I first realized what was going on to really say anything. I just kept everything inside. And you learn as you're growing up and everything, you kind of learn to explain it away. It's everything except what it really is, because to think that it could be something like that kind of makes you feel like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. So, and then once it starts, it's very difficult. And I think that once you actually admit to yourself that, yeah, I have these gifts and I'm going to use them for good and I'm going to, and I'm going to go on this journey, I think it does get better.
Well, yeah, exactly. And when you were saying the whole thing, what's the song? I'm a Survivor, right? First I was afraid and then petrified.
Yep.
I'm not going to sing it all for you guys.
Come on.
Let's do karaoke night when we go to Denny's. Come on. No. But yeah, exactly, Sandy. I think I always use the analogy with some people saying, what's your sweater? And what I mean by that is you think of an old ratty sweater and you start pulling on a thread and it starts unraveling. And once it starts unraveling, you really can't stop it. Yeah. But you got to find where you want to start, and wherever, maybe, for me, it just seemed like it smacked me across the face. But some people start out of interest, right? They're like, oh, let's do tarot, or let's do healing, maybe Reiki, or, healing touch or something. But there's so many different, what I call threads. And it's just, where do you want to start? There's so many avenues. But yeah, for sure. It's like, but you can't unknow things. That's what sucks too. It's like, sometimes it's like, are you sure you want to do that? It's like, are you sure you want hot sauce on your egg? It's like, you can't go back, you just.
Where's the journey for you now? Like, what is your everyday life as a medium? What are you doing with your gifts? What does that mean for you now?
Well, I can tell you that the X-Lax has the analogy. I've kind of gone beyond that. No, seriously. Of course, obviously I do this full time. As soon as I retired, it was a natural transition. I kind of looked at myself like, am I really doing this? Like, I completely cast aside the aspect of going to work for the VA, and and here are my kids, a newborn and a 5-year-old, and I'm like, oh my God. And but yeah, and we've been doing this now for, that's been, good Lord, that's been 9-10 years.
Wow.
So since pulling the plug from retiring, and doing this full time, but where am I now? It varies every day, Todd. It's not an easy answer, because every day it's like, I'm kind of asking, like, how can I serve today? I know we were talking before we went live, like one day, I was reached out from a priest. Another day I was reached out from a lady, her husband, at the time, her husband was a veteran, and he was in a hospice unit, and they wanted a family reading in a hospice setting. I had never done that. And to bring not only him peace, that he's going to somewhere, that his family's there waiting for him. So kind of a deathbed type reading.
Yeah.
And other times helping with missing person cases, to even entertaining ideas from producers, and kind of working on with some projects. And so it's varied. It varies from day to day. And now also, in the past, I want to say we're going on 5 years with it. I've also been doing a fun little thing with realtors and custom home builders in my area, believe it or not. Is, I call it intuitive real estate consulting. And because I learned dowsing, and I was like, geez, every time we work on a home or cleanse it, right, it sells so much quicker. And, we even did it with our old home, and it sells like, and this was before all the craziness with the housing market. And I was like, you just start to think, like, who else could use this? If you have
fascinating.
If you have an ability, why not market it in a way? And if you could show a track record of actually being able to help not only realtors, but maybe custom home builders, and not just homeowners, but, or, you know, those folks, but also maybe business owners. Could you give them an edge? And it, you know, obviously they trust me to continue on for, we're going, like I said, we're going on 5 years. So it's been really fun doing that as well. So between doing readings, you know, like a typical day, like just today, I finished up, I took a week off. I was in Arizona driving a friend's Jeep. So that was, hey, you need to go to Arizona. Let's drive your Jeep down. I'll fly back. And so I did a week doing that. And then, you know, doing, monthly email readings, and then normal typical mediumship sessions, and then running my daughter to dance, and then coming back and doing the reading.
Well, you gotta, you know.
And, you know, it's life. It's you know, but yet it's like any entrepreneur, you know, it's it's intermixed within my, you know, with everything going on. So
we got a viewer who asks, did you have self-doubt when doing readings? And if so, how do you get through that? I'm sure at first you must have had some self-doubt, right?
Absolutely. You know, I think in the beginning, there was some big self-doubt, and especially I remember a expo when I first started. That was the big thing to do, like get into the, what I call the holistic expo circuit, whatever your region or whatever, right? And it's like with all the psychics and all the mediums, and, you know, and it was pretty much in my state or couple states here in the Midwest. And so I did that pretty, in a sense, religiously, and it was kind of a big deal. And there was one city that I was in one time. This gentleman, he kind of shook my confidence in my reading, because the information that I brought forward, he could not validate one iota. And he was very upset. He was like, you need to go back to whatever. And it really shook my confidence. And, you know, and so for the rest of the day, like I was really self-conscious, like I was really pulling back on my, you know, readings and everything else. And I had a friend come through, a family friend actually come through and get a reading. And she was like, and she gave me hell later on. She was like, why did you, you know, why were you pulling back on energy, you know, your energy? And I said, yeah, I'm really sorry about that. And, you know, where my confidence wasn't there, just going, well, you know, instead of, in a sense, standing up for myself, and being confident. But it was interesting because I was more accurate than what he or she, you know, even realized. So this came back in validation later, and it was more about just me being confident in the moment. But yeah, I think it goes back to, you know, continually practice what you're doing, right?
Sure. Do you find, Dean, that a lot of times, and I've seen this myself, a lot of times people won't recognize some of the things that you say until they get away from it and out of the situation, and they look back on it and they think, oh, wait a minute. I did know this, or I did know that, or this really did happen. Do you find that sometimes?
Yeah. I was having a conversation with Chip Coffey one time, and he said, you know what I call that? He goes, I call it psychic amnesia. He goes, where the you know, the client is sitting there and they're getting so much information. They're like, no, I don't know. And then maybe it's the husband or the wife or whatever. And then the spouse is sitting there going, nudging them, going, don't you remember that? Or the mom or whoever. And they're like,
Right.
because it's they don't feel the pressure to remember it the way that you're seeing it or explaining it. Right.
Right.
And then until later on. And great example is I had a friend one time when I was starting to do readings, and I did a reading. She was like, yeah, I'm not really sure, Dean. I think you're smoking that sage, you know. They were giving me a hard time, and I was like, whatever. And I was like, you know, I said, I really do trust that it'll make sense. And I said, write it down, write all this down. And so they did. And 2:00 in the freaking morning, my phone starts going crazy with all these texts. And it was the friend that going, oh my God, I figured it out.
Yep.
And here they were. They had been drinking afterwards, of course, but then they were like, let's texting. And then I was going to respond. And I thought, it's 2:00 in the morning, go back to bed. But
yeah, right.
So yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's immediate. They're like, oh my God, that's that's mom, or that's my daughter, or whatever the case is. But I always trust the process. So
yeah.
I think too, for someone who's had readings and things like that, sometimes the person who's being read, their perspective is a little different from your perspective. You're seeing things that, we have our eyes closed to. I've got family members who tell me all the time that my mom visits me and she's always here and she's communicating with me. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see mom. I don't communicate with her. She's just not around. So I think sometimes, just because, we get so wrapped up in our own lives and our own viewpoints on everything in life, we don't open that up and think from the outside to try and put the two things together, to make it make sense.
yeah, sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that I had a reading one time even, and this was well into, this actually wasn't that many years ago. And I was actually getting Reiki done from somebody that I know. And the practitioner actually picked up on my deceased mother-in-law. And I didn't know it at the time. He actually described her really well. And, and afterwards I was like, God, it just doesn't ring a bell. And I was like, hello, that's, that's my mother-in-law.
Wow.
But see, even for the medium, I was like, because I wasn't in the headspace at the time. I was just thinking, I want to relax. And she was just there. And so understand that that's okay.
Dean, you mentioned Chip Coffey a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
What mediums, what psychics are out there today that you really like, that you really trust and believe in?
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
It's a tough one because I have a few.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I that I like about Chip, first off, is for me with Chip, it's more, with his personality. Honestly, I've never had a reading from him. I can't speak on, his readings or anything. From what I understand, they're great. But I love his energy. And usually 98% of the time, I'm going to go off of what I'm getting energetically.
Yes.
For anybody. I don't care if you're a car salesman, if you're a doctor, if you're a psychic.
Right.
For me, I kind of go like, kind of like, hey, where's your energy? And I understand that, some days you're just going to be pissy or you're going to have an off day.
Sure.
And your energy is going to be shit, right? And it's like, ooh, your energy is like God's like
every
day. That's like every day.
It's like right, but it's you can kind of really feel like the authenticity of somebody. Like this person's like not a bullshitter, like or something's off, right? It doesn't mean that they're a serial killer all the time, but I can't vouch for that. But but what I'm saying is that you can kind of feel it. And so when it comes to to get back to your question, Sandy, the people that I really trust, I guess, I don't have a long list, to be really honest with you, because I am very, very, very selective when I allow somebody to read me, because all of this, and so let me use my analogy again, because I'm not really fancy with words, but in Dean's world, like to get up in somebody's energy, right? And to read them, to connect to their energy and their deceased loved ones is very personal.
Yes.
You're getting into a personal space, because anything could be brought up. Sex, drugs, anything. And so, I don't let people get all up in my stuff unless I really trust them. And, it's if I know that I've offended you, you're like, can I give you a quick reading? No, It's just because it's nothing against them, but it's just like, no,
I totally get that.
It makes complete sense though, because it is very personal. To me, the whole thing is extremely personal.
Well, in my energy, I don't want some people up with nasty ass energy up in my energy.
No,
like
not at all.
I work really hard to maintain my energy working with my clients because I owe it to them not to bring whatever's going on in my life into the reading. And so I work really hard at keeping boundaries between, family and work.
Real quick, before we're going to have to start wrapping it up soon, but I'm so curious to know, do you find that you can actually turn it off and on so that when you want it or need it, it's there? But otherwise, if you are just home and you want time and you don't want to deal with everything, that you can sort of turn that off?
Or you're out shopping and there's somebody in your face. And I mean, how open are you all the time, Dean?
Right.
Well, that's a great question, because actually early on, somehow I found kind of a proverbial on and off switch, even though you really can't shut it off. And so one of the things is that I kind of have found how to kind of turn it on and turn it off in a sense. Because when I was in the military, I didn't want it on all the time.
No.
And especially like when you go to these big box stores, like sometimes I don't want to be the medium. I want to just be Dean.
Yes.
Sometimes I want to, good God, I like to fish. Sometimes I just want to go out and not be Dean fishing. Not, maybe Dean the dad taking his kid fishing. I don't want to be talking to some dead grandpa while I'm that happens sometimes, but it's like, okay, but I can selectively say, you know what, guys, here's my boundaries.
Yes.
And I cannot deal with this right now, and say, nope, I'm with my family, or I'm just, I just want to go and, I don't know, get a box of Oreos. I'm just downtown. We're getting groceries. I don't need to be talking to dead people. I'm figuring out fruit. So
I think that's the quote of the evening.
I think so too.
I'm figuring out fruit. I don't No, but I get what you're saying. I had to set boundaries, especially at night for me, because I was finding that I wasn't sleeping well, because I was getting all of these things thrown at me at night. And so once I decided and learned how to set my boundaries at night, I started sleeping much better.
Right.
Because I was like, speak to me tomorrow. I'm going to bed. I need my rest.
Half the time she won't even respond to my messages and stuff. So she says it to me and I'm alive. So I don't
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But before we wrap it up, Dean, though, again, we'd love to have you back, because this is just the beginning of all the questions that we have. But is there a story? Is there somebody that you've helped, that you've done a reading for, that really touched you and really made a difference in their lives, that you can think of, that you could wrap tonight up with?
Yeah. Kind of fitting with, as we talked, tomorrow is Veterans Day. So I shared earlier, or alluded to earlier, the reading that I did for the family with their dad that was in the hospice unit, and he was a veteran of many years. It was something that where he was nonverbal, he was very much conscious, he was there, and then the entire family, the wife and the kids, and and I was just like, I was really taken back, because I was like, wow, I'm actually, first time that I had done a reading, number one, at that point for a veteran, number two, because we're going back a number of years, but number two for somebody that was transitioning, that was known transitioning, right? They're dying, and it was any time. But one of the things that, of course, brought forward messages from his mom and everybody else in spirit, and really letting him know that when it was his time to transition, that they would help him do it with ease and grace, and, make it, easy for him. And I never heard anything from the, of course, they gave me thank yous and all that great stuff, but I didn't hear anything for a long time. And then the wife reached back out and she said, my husband did pass shortly after, I think it was like a month after, you were there. It wasn't that long. And she said, I just want to let you know that, you really brought not only a lot of peace and grace for him, but also us. But she said, now I want a reading to make sure that he got there okay, right? It's like the proverbial call when you get there,
Yeah.
Right.
So, so we did that, and what was really cool was here is this older woman. Here she, they were both in their, I don't know, late 60s, early 70s, and just a sweet lady. And here she blossomed into this, into her own spiritual journey. And where, and she ended up started taking some classes that I was giving, and she just started exploring everything like spiritually. And I just got to know a side of her that was really interesting. And I told her one time, I said, I said, your reading, I said, I don't think I'll ever forget. I said, I've given hundreds of readings over the years. And I said, that one of the things that, I usually forget them. I don't remember the details, but I said, yours, not only because your husband was a veteran, but I said, it was just because of the raw emotion and just the dynamics. And I said, I'll never forget that. And it was something that kind of, touched my soul, so to speak. And I was just like, I was really moved and humbled to be part of the process of his transitioning. I was just like, wow. And it was kind of like a pinch me moment. Like, really, I get to be blessed to do this for a living, to help other people when they're in that, difficult time. Like it's not easy. It's not, we don't make balloon animals for a living. We don't, and so to bring peace in a difficult situation, and to bear witness to that is really, it's just like, wow, I get to be a part of this. This is cool.
It's a great story. But now I'm thinking about, like, I think what we could do for you, Sandy, is you could be the balloon animal medium, and then you tell the story, and then,
anything to make a buck. That's how he is. That's how he is. Anything to make a buck.
There's some that etch, the essence of the spirit. So you could,
that's true.
You
the
could
drawing,
like try to,
the drawing.
Do
I get anything for
this
touching
your father?
things?
Is this your father?
Oh, this is
I would love to have you on,
direction.
Dean, and get your thoughts on energy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would love to come back and chat more, guys. And you guys are great.
Oh, we love you. Thank you so much.
Happy Veterans Day. Thank you again. And everybody here tonight said it and in the messages and stuff like that. So thanks for your service. And
thank you.
Dean McMurray, we will have you on again very shortly. So thanks for being on with us.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. There he is. If you want more details on him, it's Dean McMurray, and it is themilitarymedium.com. I know Ed was asking if he does readings from afar, and I think he does. I think he actually mentioned that, right?
Yeah, he does email readings, and I'm sure he probably Zooms and things like that too. So
that was great.
Very good. Oh, I really, really like him. Like the energy vibe is just amazing.
We've had so many great people on.
I know.
And typically, and this is not a cut on anybody, this is just a comment. Like sometimes people who are in the woo-woo world, including us, we're a little, a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, especially you. And, but no, I mean, here's a guy that was in the military for years and years and years and even struggled with it while he was in it. I just think it's a great story. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
No,
and that's why he needs to come back. I have so many questions, so many. Because I draw a few parallels between him and I in some ways, different things. And so it's very interesting to me to see how he handles certain things and how he feels the energy and what actual abilities he has. Like, some of us can see people, some of us can hear people, some of us can touch things and get names, and we're claircognizant. We're Claire Huxtable.
Right.
Some of us are Claire Huxtable. So it's very, very just so cool, so interesting. So I'm forever grateful to Dean for joining us tonight and hopefully coming with us.
I don't know where you found him, but you got a good one there. So,
well, I keep my secrets. I don't want anybody knowing what I do.
Stay out of my head.
Stay out of my head. You don't want to be in my head. Nobody wants to be in my head.
No, trust me.
I got all these little spirits going around in there and all this cray. So
Crazy Alfie is right. We are all
That's
weirdos.
right.
And make sure and like our page on the group on Facebook. Stay Weirdos, Friends of the Sandy and Toddcast.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you because you're finally getting it right. It only took like 8 months.
6 months later, and I finally can say it. Join us on Facebook if you haven't. Also, make sure and check out the Empathicary podcast, which you'll also find on the Sandy, which we talk about being empaths and what hell that can be at times. It was a rough. We should be doing another one because this week's been a hell of a week for empaths.
This week has been really rough. I'm so grateful that I have you though, because we just kind of randomly will message each other about it and be like, "It's only Wednesday. What's going on in the world?" But it's a gift. It's a gift. It's for good, and we get the evil side of it too sometimes. But
it's
so
never
the
a gift for me.
The Empathicary podcast has its own Facebook page. Make sure you give that page a like, but you can find us as well on the Sandy and Toddcast page. And again, don't forget, give us a review, whether it's the audio platform side of things, Spotify, Audible, Libsyn, all of them, or right on our Facebook page. You can go to, let me pull it up real quick so that everybody knows how to do it.
Stand by.
You can go to our page and hit reviews.
Hit reviews.
And it's towards the top of the page, and that's where you can leave your review. Leave your 5-star review for us, and you can also make a comment about how wonderful we are.
5-star reviews.
And what'll happen is hopefully in January we'll have some surprises for some of the people who have left good reviews for us.
5-star reviews.
It's so weird with that thing.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up tonight. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Make sure and tell a friend about the Sandy and Toddcast. We've got another great one coming up next Thursday night. Jordan Simon Graham. We're going to talk about Native heritage and how that links with the occult.
I can't wait. You know how much I love to learn about Native American customs and beliefs. And so this is just going to be wonderful. I cannot wait. So
can't wait for it. Ed, have a good night. For everybody here at Sandy and Toddcast. Bye.
Bye.